Dear students, welcome to this session on women's writing. This is your final semester, and I'll be dealing with the core paper Women's Writing. This is the text prescribed by the university, and it's an interesting paper, easy to learn, and it will help you to improve your analytical skill towards every happening in society. It will help you to boost up the concept of gender equity, and I'm sure that after learning this paper, you will become better human beings with refined concepts about man-woman relationship and the place of a woman in society and so on. So, I think I can start with the second module of your syllabus. The second module is easy and interesting. It's full of poetry, short pieces of poetry, which are very powerful in communicating the undercurrents of feministic perspectives. Today, I thought I'll discuss the poem titled After 8 Years of Marriage by Mamta Kalia. Mamta Kalia was born in Madurai, and her grandfather was a businessman, and her father worked with All India Radio, and her uncle Bharat Bhushan Agarwal was a writer. And she got married to Ravindra Kalia, who's also a writer and journalist. And Mamta Kalia has written many novels, around 5 novels, 5 novelettes for children, 2 one-act plays, short stories, and so on. And she has won several awards for her literary outputs. So she has mainly dealt with the issue of oppression in society, male domination, the question of identity of women, and so on. This particular poem, After 8 Years of Marriage, is so easy to understand, but it has very deep and very strong undercurrents of feminism. So this is a sarcastic piece of poetry which gives us a clear idea of what it means to be a typical middle class housewife. What happens to a woman in the covenant called marriage, how it affects a woman. So before we move into the text of the poem, let me ask you something. What is your idea of marriage? Does it bring about any change in your identity? Some people have the habit of changing their names. Some women change their names after getting married, right? They change their father's name and they put their husband's name instead. So that's an example. That's only one example of the many changes that might happen to you after marriage. So pre-marriage and post-marriage life, it's entirely different. So it seriously alters your personality, or the societal perception about you gets seriously altered after your marriage. So you will be known as somebody's daughter until then, and then thereafter, after your marriage, you will be known as somebody's wife. You'll be known as the daughter-in-law of a particular family. Or when you give birth to a child, thereafter you will be known as the mother of so and so. So marriage seriously affects the identity of a woman. And if at all a woman seeks to find identity beyond these familial roles, then people would stamp her as a feminist, right? Even many of us would have used the word feminist to refer to women who wanted to find, who wanted to establish their individuality, who wanted to go in search of their self. People normally blame such women. But actually, a girl who is born and brought up in a family is actually petted and pampered by her parents, and she enjoys the comforts of her family, and she is given all privileges. But when she is married off to another family, it's like uprooting her and transplanting her in new soil. So imagine a plant which gets uprooted and which gets transplanted in a new what do you call region. In order to survive, the plant would require enough water supply, enough sunlight, manure, and extra care and attention, right? Similarly, a girl who starts her life in a new household really deserves much of care and attention from the family members. But what happens in Indian context is extremely the opposite. Girls are expected to forget all their habits. They are expected to subvert all their routines. For example, their food habits. If at all they have learned some cooking, a little bit of cooking, the style of their cooking, it has to be changed according to the demands of the husband's family. And her way of dressing, the rituals that the girl used to do while in her home, the prayer practices, everything will undergo tremendous change, and girls are expected to adjust to that, because our society think of women as epitomes of sacrifice, epitomes of endurance and tolerance. Women can do that. We are actually befooled by saying that women are the seat of tolerance, the seat of patience, sarvam sahayaya bhumi. So all these are actually traps of socialization. Girls are trapped into believing that they are capable of doing so much of sacrifice. So girls are trained, in fact, to do a lot of compromise. When they get into a new family, they will have to take up many responsibilities. They start getting more and more obligations and commitments towards their relatives, towards the in-laws, and maybe very often the girl would never express what she feels like. She would never raise her opinion. If at all she raises her opinion, it may not be always respected. They are not expected to give opinions very often. And especially if you're not working, if the girl is not working, if she is just a housewife, that's the end of her life, I would say. So she won't have a stand in her family. She would always be a subjugated being, a submissive being, who's totally dependent financially and emotionally, totally psychologically dependent on her husband and husband's family. So this is the plight of a married woman in an Indian context. But now things have changed considerably, and we know girls are very smart. We know that girls are very smart and they are independent. But this was not the situation a decade ago. And after 8 years of marriage is a simple poem which describes the pathetic situation of a lady who faces so many restrictions, and she could not even visit her parents for a long period of time. She got a chance to visit her parents only after 8 years of her marriage. Imagine that. That itself shows the extent to which she was restricted at her husband's house. And what Mamta Kalia tries to portray through this poem is the helplessness of such women and the hypocrisy of the society in attributing such gender roles to women and not giving them enough freedom, and the wrong concepts of marriage. Like, people think that getting married, giving birth to children, this is the end of a woman's life, and this is how a woman finds self satisfaction. But what happens mostly is a pretension. Women pretend to be very happy by being a wife, by being a mother, but this is not so. They may not be happy within, they only pretend to be happy, because women are conditioned to believe that they should be the provider of the family. I mean, they should be the caretaker, and if at all they fall sick, they would never say that I am feeling ill. They would say I'm okay, I'm okay. So I've seen many elderly women saying that they are okay even while they are sick, because they are conditioned to say that they are capable of enduring all these things, and they would do anything and everything to ensure the comfort and convenience of the other members of the family. Why should it be so? So it's high time that we people start thinking about it. So here in the poem, you find a lady visiting her parents after 8 years of marriage. She's having 2 kids, and this long gap itself shows that she has no freedom to go and visit her parents as per her wishes. And her parents are so anxious to know whether she is happy. And that question is an ironical one, because all through these years she might not have been happy, and she might have faced so many obstacles, so many problems, but she cannot ventilate them all before her parents, because they are now aged, and these aged parents will only get more anxious about their daughter's happiness and safety and comfort if she opens up before them. She really feels like sharing all her agony with them, but she rethinks and decides not to say anything, because if at all she bursts out crying, what would happen? They would be so disappointed about her daughter's life, and they cannot do anything to practically change her life situation. So when the parents see their daughter with 2 kids, they are under the impression that their daughter is happy and contented and satisfied, and she's not correcting them. But when she thinks about her happiness, she understands that it's an absurd question. All through these years, she might have faced so many dark phases, so many ups and downs, so many situations might have come across, like she cannot share them all with her parents. She has cried a lot, and at times she might have felt happy, maybe for one reason or other, but she doesn't even remember that. So kind of all those things which she does not share with her parents, it is so potential, it's so powerful, and you can read between and behind the lines to understand the extent of her pain and understand the intensity of her neglected self. There is nobody to understand her, nobody to give her respect. So society in general expects women to be very angelic, very docile. Women should never protest, women should never raise their voice, and their world is within the household, confining themselves to the 4 walls of a bedroom or a kitchen. And people make them believe that giving birth to children and raising them is the end of their life. So after 8 years of marriage helps us understand that what a woman needs is some self-esteem, some self-respect, and like some respect from her husband, acknowledgement, some recognition from her husband's family, and emotional companionship is what a woman really needs. Emotional companionship is what a woman really needs, and it also mocks the practice of the society, like to marry off a daughter at the right age, at the prime age, is the only responsibility of parents. That's not the only responsibility of parents. They have to educate their daughter and ensure that she is financially independent, and she is being respected at the house where she is staying. So very often women are not enjoying privileges. They have to do a lot of compromises with respect to their dressing, their food habits, their lifestyle, and they never open up before the members of the family. So all these happen. So if we go through the text of the poem, you understand that a woman really is fed up with her marital life. And there is yet another poem by Mamta Kalia, I'm fed up of being a woman, or something like that. So you should also read other poems by Mamta Kalia to know this question of identity in women better. So, are you happy? Tell us. It was an absurd question, and I should have laughed at it. Instead, I cried and in between sobs nodded yes. I wanted to tell them that I was happy on Tuesday, on which Tuesday it's not mentioned. I was unhappy on Wednesday. So, she doesn't even remember those moments when she really felt happy. So, perhaps she was happy, or perhaps she was unhappy. She's so perplexed and ambiguous about her life's nature. So it's not in her hands. So I was happy one day at 8 o'clock. I was most unhappy by 8:15. So she cannot even remember those moments when she felt happiness, when she felt sad. So it's because it emphasizes the long gap that happened between her marriage and her return home. I wanted to tell them how one day we all ate a watermelon and laughed. I wanted to tell them how I wept in bed all night once and struggled hard from hurting myself. So she really wished she could share each and everything. Maybe this poem was written long ago. They didn't have WhatsApp or all these video call or the most modern facilities to communicate then and there about the happenings in their life. So formerly people used to send letters. See, a woman is not even free to communicate with her parents, even through other mediums like letters or phone calls. So all such restrictions are being emphasized through the poem. So though she wanted to share all those little joys with her parents, she could not do them. That it wasn't easy to be happy in a family of 12. So that indicates that she was married off to a joint family where so many people live together. So she will have to do many compromises. They cannot dominate over them, or they cannot establish their preferences. So her priorities might not be always respected. So, but they were looking at my two sons, hopping around like young goths. So the grandparents, her parents were looking at their grandchildren, and they were so happy seeing them playing around like goats. So their wrinkled hands, beaten faces, and grey eyelashes. We are all too much too real. So I swallowed everything and smiled a smile of great content. So as I observed, or as she observed her own parents, she found that they are so aged, they are so weak, and they may not be in a mood to understand her pains. Or if at all she reveals all her problems before them, they may not have the courage or the energy to withstand all those. So it will only make them so sad. So she didn't want to bother her parents anymore by sharing all her grief with them. So she just swallowed everything. That's why I told you, women are conditioned to tolerate and endure everything, to hide so many things. So she never reveals her sorrows before her parents, and she just pretended to be very happy and satisfied with her family life. So I swallowed everything and smiled a smile of great content. This is not an individual's case. This is a universal fact. Women all over India have this habit of pretending, but they are really the scapegoats of a marital covenant. And the first time I visited my parents, they asked, "Are you happy? Tell us." It was an absurd question, and I should have laughed at it. Instead, I cried, and in between sobs, nodded yes. So, it again shows the concern of parents towards their daughter and the helplessness of her daughter. At first, she tried to share. She wanted to share all these with her parents, but then she suppresses all those feelings. So, I think the poem is very simple, and how a woman is conditioned to become a woman. Just remember Simone de Beauvoir, the one who wrote the work The Second Sex. This work, The Second Sex, is said to be the Bible of feminism, and it is said that one is not born woman but one becomes a woman. It's because this difference between man and woman is only a biological one. Gender is a social construct, right? So gender roles are always attributed to girls, and they fall into the trap of socialization. They are often idealized or idolized, saying that you are like a devi, you are like a goddess who can tolerate everything. Ellam ക്ഷമിക്കാൻ, എല്ലാം പൊറുക്കാൻ പറ്റുന്ന. So this is how you idealize or idolize women in Indian society. So they cannot shout, they cannot get angry. So a goddess will never shout, right? A goddess will always be very pleasant in appearance. So you find so many such patriarchal concepts prevalent in our society, in many stories, in many poems, and in many places you can find the traces of patriarchy still prevalent. And think of Manusmriti. What does it say? Pito rakshati kaumare, bhartro rakshati yavvane, putro rakshati vardhagye, nastri swadandri marhade. So a woman is to be a protected being. Woman is expected to be a dependent being on her father when she is an adolescent girl, on her husband when she is youthful, and dependent on her son when she is aged. So she is always a subjugated or a submissive being who is dependent on men in society. And again, in movie songs like Pumagavadilkal Sneham Vidarthanu. So you have to analyze, you should start analyzing all these songs from a feministic perspective, and then you will understand how men have created such a concept of an ideal wife, of concept of an ideal woman. ദുഃഖത്തിൻ മുള്ളുകൾ തൂവിരൽ തുമ്പിനാൽ പുഷ്പങ്ങളാക്കുന്ന ഭാര്യ, ആൻഡ് കാര്യത്തിൽ മന്ത്രിയും കർമ്മത്തിൽ ദാസിയും രൂപത്തിൽ ലക്ഷ്മിയും ഭാര്യ. So you define a woman as a beautiful one, who efficient in doing all the works, and who is wise enough. എൻ്റെ നാലാമത്തെ ഒരു വരിയും കൂടി ഉണ്ട്, അത് ഞാൻ പറയാൻ ആഗ്രഹിക്കുന്നില്ല. ആക്ച്വലി ദാറ്റ് ഇസ് like how a woman should give pleasure to man in bed. അങ്ങനത്തെ ഒരു fourth line is also there for that, but it's not actually popular. So that is how a society defines a woman, and these misconcepts run everywhere in society. And even today, when you think of a marriage and a marriage proposal, all these concepts are there in underlying within the consciousness of a typical Indian man. So when you observe things around you, when you engage in social discourses, you should keep this poem in mind, and you should try to refine your concepts about marriage. You should try to refine your concepts about a woman's identity. You cannot limit a woman to a wife's role, or to a mother's role, or to a daughter-in-law's role. She is an individual. She has her own priorities and preferences and talents. So that is how you should pay mutual respect, give and take respect. So after 8 years of marriage is a simple poem on a superficial look, but it communicates a lot with us. So you keep reading other such works, like Why I Want a Wife by Judy Bradley. This is a short work, a prosaic piece of work which defines, in a very sarcastic tone, it defines how a wife should be, how men expect a wife to be. And there is yet another piece by a piece of work titled Girl, how girls should behave in society. So if you just surf in the net, you will find such interesting pieces of literature. You can read them all and make a comparison with the poem that you have learned today, and write your own critical appreciation about the poem. I hope you enjoyed this session. Keep reading. Thank you.